We're going to talk all things the 90s and early into the 2000s with 2004 Olympic captain Nathan Thomas. Welcome, Nathan.
Hey, Westy. Thanks very much. Great pleasure to be here.
Mate, you started your international career in the 90s. You grew up in the country. You're a Tamworth boy who came out of what was a great water polo growth area and school at the time.
Oh yeah, we had a wonderful program at Tamworth High School. A couple of great coaches in Ron Surtees and Pat Saunders in particular, and a few others, but those guys primarily. And between them, I think they'd probably won about 30 New South Wales state CHS sort of titles, schools titles, in under 15s and opens. And there's a whole raft of guys that made New South Wales state teams, Australian schoolboys teams, and a handful of us that went on to the Australian Institute of Sport, and a couple that made it through to the Olympics. So it's amazing to have come from such a great water polo town, to be honest. And they're still plugging away up there and doing a great job.
So AIS Institute program there, your residential, that kicks off your international career through the 90s. Obviously, bit of a hurdle. Your Olympic dream didn't get there in '96.
Yeah, everyone wants to bring that up, which is I went down to the AIS in Canberra in '91. All I did was eat, sleep, and train. It was a real shock to the system, I've got to be honest with you. And I made the national team in '93. We went across to Athens and won a bronze medal at the World Cup, which was amazing. And then we went on to Rome '98 World Champs and moved on to '95, where our program had been building up, lots of great experienced players and lots of young talent that was coming out of the AIS program, the likes of Grant Waterman and Rod Jones, and there's a list of names that went on to play for Australia for many years. But we went to Europe in 1995 and we won every tournament that we played in. We drew with Spain, who went on to be the Olympic gold medalist, but we won every other game. And, there was all this sort of people talking about you being a prospective medalist at the Atlanta Olympics. That's all well and good. We left summer in January in Australia, landed in Berlin. It was for the qualification tournament. It was minus 21 degrees. And, there was this unknown team called Yugoslavia there. For those who know anything about water polo, those guys aren't bad. And some great players and teams like the Ukraine. Germany was fantastic in their home venue, and Romania obviously in the end knocked us out of the Olympics. We came home with our tails between our legs, and it sort of caused a disturbance for a long time in the men's water polo program. It consequently cost the national coach their job, and a new coach came in and built us up again for the '98 World Champs.
Back in 2000, walking into the stadium for the opening ceremony, I mean, that's got to be one of the great thrills of your career.
Oh, look, one of the most amazing experiences of my life, right? You could only really... the only things that could probably come close is your wedding day and the birth of your children. I think that would for different reasons. And walking into that ceremony, I was actually standing and walking in next to Craig Miller, who I'd grown up with in Tamworth. He was in the year above me at Tamworth High School, and I was trying to talk to him, and he said, "Mate, I just can't hear you." And we were literally 10 centimeters from each other. I was yelling in his ear, and he said, "I just couldn't hear you." So to walk out onto the with the Australian delegation into the opening ceremony was an incredible experience. And I can only imagine what it must feel like to be a rock star, because you looked into the eyes of the people in the stands, and they were literally, literally looked like crazy people. They'd lost their minds because they were seeing an Australian Olympian, and that was a pretty special experience.
Yeah, the Aussie team, I think, came out last. So everyone was waiting. And then you guys came into the stadium and the place erupted. 120,000 people just went crazy.
Yeah, it was incredible. It really was. It's a special event and a special experience for anyone involved. So it was wonderful.
Yeah. And tournament-wise in Sydney, you went through to the quarterfinals. You had some very, very close matches against all the teams in the tournament. You finished 10th in the end at Croatia. Got you by
That's
a
right.
goal, I think, for the 10th place
Mhm.
playoff.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, and you know, we had a draw with Spain. We ended up playing Italy twice from memory, and we lost the second game, and then we lost again to that mysterious Serbian team. So, you know, who knocked us out of the race for that the top four. You know, it was a wonderful team, a very experienced team. You know, we had guys that obviously missed out from '92. That had tracked through to '96. Some guys didn't quite make it to the 2000 team, but we had a lot of guys, thankfully, that were able to sort of keep in the program. And you know, the result, while wasn't what any of us desired, certainly was the best we could achieve.
Yeah, and great support to compete at a home Olympics and then go forward 4 years and captain Australia at the home of the Olympics in Athens. I mean, you've had a wonderful career in the pool.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, I think you know, I've been blessed as an athlete, and to represent your country is a wonderful achievement. I think you know, nothing will compare to Sydney when it comes to the Olympic Games. Athens was a wonderful experience, but you know, it just wasn't. You know, in Sydney, on pool deck at Ryde, you know, there was people like Ron Surtees who'd coached me as a kid, um, as a part of the officials that were doing all sorts of different things. And people like Ross Coggan, you'd look up into the grandstand and see friends and family and water polo alumni that you've known for your whole life. So it was quite an emotional experience. Athens was very different. We had a reborn team. I think we lost 9 guys out of the Sydney team to move forward to Athens. Me personally, you know, leading into 2000 and all the way to 2004, I spent a lot of time playing in Europe, and which is also an incredible experience. We lived in Barcelona for 6 or 7 months a year, and then you know, I toured with the national team, and then I'd do that all again. So it's a wonderful experience, and you know, I don't regret it at all. In fact, there's many nights I wake up dreaming that I'm still doing it, and I only realise how hard that would be when I get back into the water and try and swim with the guys, and you just nowhere near that. It's definitely gone, Westy. It's definitely gone.
I don't know. I think I played against you, and it's definitely not gone, Nathan.
Yeah, well, I think you know, playing with the Balmain Slugs is something that it was a lot of fun. In fact, you know, I there's been times in my water polo as a career, whether it be playing, administering, being involved with administrations or coaching, where you do get disillusioned with the sport, and I don't mean that to be sound like a bad thing, but I've often sort of turned to something much more social and enjoyable, whether it be coaching flipper ball kids or going and playing a lower grade senior age competition, and actually enjoying water polo for what it really is all about, and that's participation, you know, fitness and having fun, and that's always sort of helped me rebound and continue to stay focused on my passion for the sport.
So tell me, to be an Olympian, what does that mean to you? And then to captain your country, what does that mean to you?
Um, you know, I in 1988, sorry, 89, Andrew Kerr came to Tamworth, and it was Water Polo New South Wales had this thing they called the Flying Circus, and they literally were flying people in on the weekends and running clinics at towns. And you know, in 1889, when I was 14 years old, turning 15, I decided that I was going to go to the Olympics and play for Australia. You know, I look back at it and find it quite comical, because it was completely ridiculous that I thought that was achievable. But I think it was my own naivety. But you know, that planted the seed of ambition in my mind at the time. And you know, I made lots of decisions from that point on that would lots of sacrifices that made it possible for me to achieve that dream. So, you know, maybe it's a bit of drive and a bit of stupidity, but you know, I got there. I've got alumni and friends, and the water polo community is such a fantastic group of people that, you know, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Felt like I'm incredibly privileged to go on from representing. And, you know, when I first made the team in '93, I think I was the youngest player in the national team for about 3 or 4 years, and back in those days, it meant you carried everything, the balls, the caps, the other people's luggage. But you know, to be able to be a part of the Australian program for the next 12 years, and go on and represent Australia is, you know, the greatest honour. To be the captain of the team and to help sort of, you know, I realised late in the 90s that being trying to be the best player I could wasn't as important as trying to be a part of a team that could perform as well as possible, you know. And I think that shift in my attitude played a part in starting some of the careers of great players like Sam McGregor and Richie Campbell and Thomas Whalen. And, you know, that's what I love about our sport. I can still go and watch the national team play and know that you've been a part of the journey that some of these guys have had. And, you know, I think we've got a great batch of athletes and two fantastic teams in both our Stingers and Sharks going towards Tokyo. And I really look forward to seeing them both have podium finishes. I think they're both of them have great potential to achieve that.